No mai, haere mai. Welcome to the Maxim Institute podcast. My name is Marcus Roberts. I'm a senior researcher at Maxim Institute, and this is our weekly short-form podcast. These podcasts are released in tandem with our weekly column and are a chance for you to hear in depth from the column's author about some of the thinking that went into producing their final piece. Today we talk to Maxim Communications Manager Jason Heale about his recent column. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Marcus. I have to say it's a bit strange to be on this side of the table today.
I'm looking forward to asking you some questions for a change, that's for sure.
Okay.
So let's dive into it. We've got a column that you wrote called We Need to Talk About Death.
Yeah, very uplifting topic.
I thought so. What prompted you to decide we needed to talk about death?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Marcus, because I saw some stats released by Stats New Zealand for the year end June 2022 regarding population growth and the fact that our population growth was the lowest in 36 years. We only added 12,700 people to our population, and a big reason for that was that our number of deaths jumped up by 10% or 3,400 from the year before. So that's a massive increase. That's a significant increase. And the fact is that no one was talking about it. These stats were released and there were one or two news articles on it, but it's a wide-ranging problem that we're just not talking about. So I thought we need to talk about it.
But, I mean, isn't the reason that no one's talking about it because the answer's obvious? I mean, we've had a pandemic. Everyone's dying of COVID. Isn't that the answer why?
I think most people thought that would be the natural answer. Like, yep, we just had a pandemic. Death rate's gone up clearly. It's, right there in black and white. COVID equals 10% death increase. But according to the numbers that were released by the government, the COVID-19 number of deaths in the same 12-month period was just over 1,000. So definitely not accounting for 3,500 deaths over the same period. So COVID's not the answer. We had some other suggestions put forward. Stats New Zealand thought it was because our population is aging. I mean, they have access to the raw data, and they said that 2 out of every 3 deaths was people being over the age of 75. Other people have suggested that it was because those who were vulnerable and were locked away during the lockdowns were allowed out and were exposed to diseases. I mean, you and I have talked about how bad the colds were this winter and how we spiked up and we were all getting sick and everything like that. We noticed it, and that's one suggestion. But I guess the ultimate answer is we actually don't know why the death rates jumped up so much.
I mean, is anyone trying to find out, or?
And that's the thing, like, we aren't talking about it. No one's, apart from a couple of news articles, no one's asked the question, why is this? And even more than that, what does this mean for us?
Well, I mean, why is it important to find out?
It's important because our population is aging. And we're only replacing our population with immigration. And an aging population, people might think, wow, what's the problem with that? Well, there's a lot of societal-wide implications. There's less people paying tax if we have more people retired. There's less people in the working age bracket, therefore less people to do the jobs that need to be done. And so there's less overall productivity, less people working in the health system, less people working in the education system. So it affects everyone in the whole of society, and it affects our roads, our infrastructure, all of those things. We do really need to look at this seriously.
But yet no one really seems to be doing so. Is it? I mean, it's taking a step back from the sort of the economy and societal implications. Do you think that there's something deeper here around a problem we have in the year 2022 grappling with, confronting, or even talking about death?
Yeah, I think in the West we definitely do. Like 100% philosophically. I mean, as you've asked a deep philosophical question there, Marcus. Why don't we talk about death? And I think it's because in some sense we have protected ourselves against death. We have made death something that's kind of sanitized. It happens behind closed doors. It's something out there that happens to someone else. I was reading recently that short story by Leo Tolstoy, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, and he was making the observation in the book that everyone thought that their friend had died, but that was something that happened to other people. And this was in 19th century Russia when he's writing this. Couldn't have been more for today. Everyone thinks that death is, it's so sad that this person died or that person died, but you never are confronted with the reality that this is going to happen to me. And I think that's part of it. I also think that modern technology has enabled us to have this illusion of control. I think that actually what the last 2 years have taught us, and maybe that we've just kind of put our walls up even harder, is that we don't control everything. A virus comes in and sweeps through the world, and a whole bunch of people die, and it's out of our control. Yes. We tried to lock down, and we did successfully, but people still died. People still got the virus. People still died. There was no way for us to protect ourselves from that. We need to break through that illusion of control and face the reality that we're going to die and plan for that in the future.
So maybe what you're saying, Jason, is that in order to talk about death, we need to accept the reality to start with, that we're all going to die.
That's a good starting point, yeah. And then let's talk about it. Let's establish reality and let's talk about it, yeah.
Jason, thank you for that wonderfully, as you say, uplifting topic. I enjoyed it immensely. Jason, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now let's hear from Jason as he reads his column.
During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were all obsessed with data around deaths. How many people had died from the virus? Were these deaths directly attributable to COVID-19? How did the lockdowns affect our death rate? Were they good for us overall because they stopped other diseases from transmitting? Or were they harmful because deadly diseases were detected later and life-saving surgeries were postponed? We were asking these questions as we talked about our pandemic response. That was good. When we shut down the country, we needed to see that it was having an effect. Was our response keeping people safe? Yet alarming data has been released by Stats New Zealand recently about the number of deaths we saw in the year ended June 2022. It turns out that the number of deaths we have seen over the past 12 months has increased by 3,400 from the year before. That's significant. The estimate for our population increase is at its lowest in 36 years. We only added 12,700 people. What's the cause for this? Various reasons have been proposed. Many people point to COVID-19. However, only 1,053 have died from COVID over the same 12-month period, far less than the 3,400 that make up the jump. Stats New Zealand points to an aging population, with 2 out of every 3 deaths being over 75. Some suggest the vulnerable are now being exposed to diseases they avoided over the past 2 years due to lockdowns. Whatever the cause, we need to be talking about this. Each of these potential causes has significant implications for our society. Yet, aside from COVID statistics, we dislike discussing death. We have been sanitized against it. Death happens behind closed doors. It is just a number. We don't want to face life's end. Our refusal to engage with this is evident in palliative care. Hospice New Zealand must fundraise $77 million each year just to keep running. We must overcome this fear of death, constantly trying to hold it at arm's length as if it won't happen to us. We know nothing is certain but death and taxes. We talk a lot about taxes. Let's talk about death. An aging population is just one of the 3 possible explanations offered that have wide-ranging implications for the future of our society. Our birth rates are falling. We are only just replacing people leaving the country. Young people are not only the future, but also the present. How can we support our elders if fewer people pay taxes? If there are fewer people of working age, how will we do all the jobs that need to be done? How will our health system cope? What about education? These are all questions that need to be asked. just about one of the possible reasons for our increase in deaths. Other questions are also worth asking. Whatever the answers are, we need to know about these problems to start to wrestle with them. It's time to have some difficult conversations about death in New Zealand.
Thanks for listening to the Maxim Institute podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us and keep up with the rest of our research and analysis of politics and policy in New Zealand, you can sign up on the homepage of our website to get our monthly forum email and invitation to future Maxim Institute events. You can search and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. From the team at Maxim, mā te wā. Goodbye for now.